Okay, so welcome, Miles. Thanks for being here with us today. Great to see you.
Great to be here, Guy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Miles, you are, for those who haven't had the pleasure of making your acquaintance as of yet, you are the CTO for Birch BioSciences. And I know from our very first conversation, Birch is an incredibly innovative technology startup founded in 2021, doing some incredibly exciting work around using engineered enzymes to recycle plastic to enable a more sustainable and circular plastic economy. And I think that's a problem we can all relate to in the day and age that we're living in, and one that I'm sure a lot of people are very keen to solve. So really keen to pick your brains today and understand a little bit more about some of what you're doing and your approach as a technology leader to solving that problem. So thanks again for being here with us, and yeah, can't wait to get into things. Before we delve into that, let's talk a little bit about you. Great to hear a bit more about your background, your career bio to date. If you give us a whistle stop tour.
Yeah, absolutely. So very happy to join you today, Guy, and happy to give a little bit of background on me. So I would say that my career really has focused on developing systems to generate lots of biological data and then applying data science and machine learning techniques to essentially employ that data. And my background really got my start at the University of Washington in the Clavens lab, working on engineering microbial organisms with gene circuits. And the goal there was really to apply electrical engineering principles, circuit design principles to gene regulatory networks, and basically create systems that cells could sense external factors and respond. So very similar, and the analogy being that the cell is essentially like a computer. The DNA is essentially like a programming language, and you can change around the DNA sequences and create behavior from those cells. So worked on that during my dissertation, and then after that went to work for a company called Inscripta, and there was focused on generating technologies for high throughput genome engineering and generating large amounts of DNA sequencing data. And really that's where the intersection of sort of high throughput computing and high throughput biology really came to a head for me. And there we were really focused on trying to understand how can we use computational predictive algorithms to best design the different types of basically biological reagents we were using in our high throughput genome engineering technology. And after that, continued with the application of machine learning and high throughput biology at a company called AbSci, where we were using AI and high throughput screening to computationally design therapeutic antibodies for a wide range of different applications. So really have been focused on understanding, how can we create systems where we're generating lots of useful information with biological applications? How can we generate data infrastructures and organizational infrastructures to capture that data in a reliable manner? And then how do we leverage that data using data science and machine learning techniques to make actionable decisions on the business side of things? And so recently been at Birch for about a year, and have been really excited to help build the platform and drive towards our important mission of trying to reduce plastic waste in the world and to circularize the plastic economy with our innovative recycling technologies.
Awesome, good stuff. Well, we're in a really interesting kind of journey throughout your career so far, and it seems like you've worked in some very interesting and exciting areas to date. It seems like you've always been able to interweave, I suppose, technology and science throughout your positions thus far. So, how do you was that intentional, and how do you kind of see those two areas? I guess they're not mutually exclusive, but how do you sort of see those two areas interweaving?
Yeah, so I think it's really from the beginning have always had an interest in basically computational mathematical systems and biology, and really from those two interests kind of grew into the career path that I ended up taking. I think one thing I would say is that I think it's an incredible time to be in biology or in the field of biology because of all of the incredible advancements in AI and machine learning in the last five or so years.
Yeah.
In biology, we're continually making new data and new interesting applications. And there's this incredible parallel between the information content of computational systems and the informational content of biological systems. And as techniques on the wet lab and biology side of things have been able to generate more and more data, there's been a need for more and more sort of computational infrastructure, data capture, as well as application of machine learning on top of that data to harness it and basically use that data to create predictive systems and generate new different types of techniques and decision-making processes. So really, I think we're kind of at the precipice of, AI is going to revolutionize a lot of different fields. I think it's already beginning to revolutionize biotechnology broadly and will continue to do so in the years to come.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's definitely a trend we're noticing in the market as well. I mean, we are very much a technology driven or focused recruitment agency, but we are quite sector agnostic. We obviously technology and AI in particular now say ubiquitous across the world and found in every single sector. But one of the areas that we're seeing some really interesting applications, and also quite frankly where a lot of the money is being drawn to in terms of investment now, thankfully moving forward, it is very much that kind of biotech and life sciences space. And like I say, some incredibly exciting innovations taking place in that area. So yes, I would wholeheartedly agree with you there, which draws us on quite nicely, I suppose, talking a little bit more about Birch. So tell us a bit more about, let's go into a bit of detail about what you guys are actually doing, how you're tackling this really interesting problem area, and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think maybe starting with a little bit of numbers to frame the plastic problem. I mean, you mentioned this a little bit at the beginning of our conversation here, but if you look at the amount of recycling that's done on plastic globally, less than 10% of plastics are recycled. And so that means for every 10 pieces of plastic that are generated, 9 of those are going to be either waste or incinerated or end up, polluting the environment. And so there's a carbon impact to the production of this plastic. There's an environmental impact, a human health impact, and a really big need to basically recycle more of this plastic. And so with that sort of basis, what Birch is trying to do is, over the last 10 or 15 years, scientists have discovered microbial systems that actually are metabolizing the plastic that we've basically littered into the environment. And that actually has created a really exciting opportunity for Birch and for others in the field who are studying the degradation of plastics. So by looking at these microbes and understanding what particular enzymes or components of their metabolism are actually responsible for the breakdown of the plastic, we can actually take those enzymes and then we can use modern machine learning and protein engineering techniques to improve their catalytic activity and really efficiently break down these plastic products with enzymes that we're engineering with our engineering platform. And so, what does that look like? We have basically a lab that looks a lot like any sort of general microbial laboratory that you can imagine. But then we also have this really important computational side of things as well, where we're really focused on generating lots of data, where we're trying different types of enzymes and generating new versions of enzymes, measuring their activity, recording those measurements, recording the sequence differences, and then generating lots of those data points and creating models that help us guide further engineering of those enzymes. And so, why are we building these enzymes? What's the end goal? So as we apply our platform, we have some proprietary techniques for generating lots of data to create these new enzymes. But our ultimate goal is to scale up this process to, think of the size of a brewery, or think of the size of a large industrial plant. So by taking large, kiloton scale amounts of plastic and running a process where you're exposing that plastic to enzymes, depending on the polymer that you're talking about, many of the enzymes actually break down the polymer into the actual components that folks use to actually polymerize and create new polymer. And so in this way, Birch's technology really circularizes a lot of this polymer recycling technology that's out there. And just as a comparison, if you look at, say, mechanical recycling, some of the issues there is that by grinding up different types of plastic and then trying to reuse it, what you get is a degradation of the polymer quality over time. And so there's a limit to the amount of times you can actually go through and recycle that plastic. And then you look at, kind of on the other hand, some of these new chemical recycling technologies that are out there. Those also break down the polymers to their component parts in many cases, but really require some high temperature, sort of high energy intensive processes, and commonly use chemicals that, from a life cycle assessment analysis and environmental impact, aren't favorable. So when it comes to the enzymes, nature has sort of provided us a platform to engineer these enzymes further. And it really just is an exposure of the enzymes to the plastic, breaks down the components. We do some chemical retrieval of the breakdown components. And really that, what's driving our performance and driving the company forward is the underlying data acquisition, data structuring, and data application to drive forward the protein engineering efforts that we're undertaking on the different plastics.
Yeah, that's it. Well, incredibly, I keep using the word innovative, but I think I'm going to use innovation quite a lot in today's episode. But really fascinating stuff, and kind of sounds like that Goldilocks solution in the middle of those two areas. But quick question, playing devil's advocate: are there any undesirable side effects that sort of come from this approach that you don't necessarily find with sort of the manufacturing or mechanical versus the chemical processes that exist today?
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the downsides is it's a very challenging technology to get to a scale that is economical and viable. And there have been others in the field who are attempting this, and creating enzymes and creating a process that actually is economically viable and economically competitive with the generation of virgin plastics, right? And really that's the whole game. So if we can create recycling technologies that can generate new virgin quality polymers that are on par with the new plastics that are being made from fossil fuels, that's when we can really tip the scales of the environmental impact of all of this. And so I think a downside is it's really challenging to get hard, or it's really challenging to get correct, but it's a hard problem that's worth solving, because the upside is really valuable, and will enable really, hopefully, a circular change in how the economy around polymers is carried out.
Yeah, I can imagine. Must be a very fulfilling and rewarding space to be operating in every day. It must be one of those sort of applications for technology and AI in particular. Like I say, I guess not many 6-year-old kids wake up in the morning and go, "Oh, mum, dad, I want to be involved in the further recycling of plastics in the world." But I think it's got to that point now where actually it's so prevalent as a problem, and I think there's more and more attention being drawn to it. But I still don't think many people fully understand the kind of size and sort of scope of this issue. I mean, actually, one of the things that kind of really brought it home for me, funnily enough, was this Christmas time just gone. My mother-in-law, she always buys these like games that we play on Christmas Day, and it's like this pack of cards. It was like true or false. And one of the questions I always remember or stick with me was if you added up the weight of every species, every animal, every living animal on the planet today, and the combined weight of every single animal versus the combined weight of all plastics that exist in the world today, which would be heavier? And obviously, everybody instinctively thought, well, it's got to be the animals. And guess what? It wasn't. And I think that kind of really blew my mind as to, Jesus, this is an issue. This is a problem that just has to be solved. So it's great to hear that there is such efforts and pioneering work that's being done in the space to kind of resolve that. And yeah, let's hope we can continue to ride that wave. So great. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your approach as a leader then. Obviously, as a CTO of this particular business, what do you subscribe to as the qualities of a great leader?
Yeah, I think, first off, I would just say that I think we have an incredible team here at Birch, and I'm very grateful to work with the talented group of individuals that we have here. And that makes my job as one of the leaders of the company easier, right? So I think just acknowledging that, from my perspective, I try to view leadership activities really in the servant leadership style, trying to frame my everyday activities and my everyday decision making around, what is the best way for us to continue on and basically make decisions that are going to serve the best interest of the company and serve the best interests of the employees. And that's really at every turn trying to ground yourself in decision making that puts the employees and the folks that you're working with and the company as a whole first. And I think another handful of things that are really important, starting with that principle. I think additionally, we definitely want to make sure that we're up on the technical aspects of what's happening, right? I think there are different styles of leadership of how deep are you into the technical details, how removed are you from the technical details. And I think at the stage that Birch is in particular, we're a startup company, and so it's really important to be dug in to the details and make sure that you as a leader have a really good understanding of the technical challenges that the team is facing, and provide guidance and provide strategy that can help empower the talented folks that we have here to make progress on those challenges. So, really, I would say those are my two major things. And then I think also trying to bring some fun and positivity to what we're doing every day. I mean, I'm incredibly lucky and incredibly grateful to be able to work on such cool science and applying it to something that is exciting and has the opportunity to really help the world. And especially when it comes to science and building technological systems and building technology, this stuff is hard and there's going to be failures, and I think we have to be okay with that and create an environment where folks are happy to take calculated risks and understand that there's space for exploration, there's space for trying new things. And if something doesn't work, that's not necessarily a negative result. That's we learned something from that particular try or that particular experiment, and if we can harness those learnings in a positive direction, then that's all good. And we want to make sure that our folks are self-motivated to help drive us towards our mission. So those are really kind of some key elements I think about when it comes to leadership.
Nice. And a lot of those I would very much agree with. I mean, within my 16 years of doing this job, and obviously having had the pleasure of working with a number of technology leaders over the years, a few there that really stand out for me, which you didn't necessarily say it, but it was inferred, I think, by the way you answered the question in the first instance. And humility, I think, is one of those big things. And like you say, being able to kind of really recognize that it's down to the team as well as it is about the individual to be a good leader. And in combination with that whole empowerment piece, how do you empower people to be better? And lastly, I think that framing of failure is so important for, especially when you're in a very kind of new pioneering space. I can imagine failure is a daily occurrence, and I suppose not always seen, shouldn't always be seen as a negative thing, right? Because obviously that's what's going to get you the progress that you need. But being able to create a safe space where people feel there is that possibility to try something new, not fail, and learn from it is absolutely key, and something that I think transcends all industries really, but I can imagine particularly important in the space that you're in. And to sort of flip it on its head then, when we're thinking about hiring into the business and growing the business moving forward, what do you feel are some of the most important traits that you look for when hiring for quality data and tech professionals?
Yeah. So, I think it really for me kind of comes down similarly, at overarching principles to some of the stuff we were just touching on there, right? I and the team here at Birch, we want to work with driven, excited professionals and people who are interested in working on a mission that we feel is important and we think others feel is important, and someone who's ready to work together as a team member to what the organization has already built. And when it comes to the technical side of things, especially early on in a startup environment, we're really looking to build systems and build infrastructure that can serve us going forward. And so, people who are interested in kind of creating new ways of doing things, creating new organizational strategies for the scientific information that we're creating on a day-to-day basis. And then really, I think also folks who are curious. I think curiosity is one of the most intrinsic motivators that human beings have in general. And if you have someone who is curious, they're going to try and make things better. They're going to tinker and do things that really move you forward. So, as long as you can have people who are driven and focused and buy into the mission, have some humility, have the technical expertise for the job that you're looking for sure is an important aspect. And people who are curious, I think, are really, really important. And looking for all of those qualities fit with the particular correct technical skill set for the job that we're being asked. So I think it's, starting with the base level, are you going to fit the culture? Are you going to have the mindset that we'd like to build and share here? And do you have the technical expertise to do the job? And is there a good match between the role and the responsibilities for the particular position that you're hiring for, and what the aspirations and interests and career goals for the candidate that we're looking to hire are an important thing as well, because truly at times the candidate might be an incredible professional, incredible technology expert, incredible XYZ, but if their skill set or the basically aspects of what they're trying to do doesn't fit the position that you're hiring for, then it might not be a fit, but that's okay. And I think so. Those are really some things that I think about when we're trying to fill roles and continue to grow and expand the company.
Yeah, nice, very, very pragmatic and kind of measured answer. And one of the things I loved about your answer there, starting off with the values and the behaviors before the technology itself. And it's very often, I think, easy to fall into that trap in a technology world of buzzword matching on a CV of, oh, they've worked with that, we're working with that, perfect, must be a good fit. And like I say, first and foremost, especially in this area that we're all in maybe within machine learning and AI, how the speed at which that landscape is evolving. I had this conversation with a client yesterday that, inherently in the kind of 5 years since starting True North, when I set up the business and was starting to have conversations with data scientists, day one to where we are today, obviously what's happened within that window of time, the rise of obviously mass adoption of LLMs and chat GPT and all that kind of thing. And just the skill set that's required today is entirely different to where we were even like 5 years ago, right? So taking people that have those that kind of mindset, that attitude, that approach, curiosity, or problem solving ability, I think is so important. Of course, you need to have people that have got the technical competence as well, but I totally agree with you that it's probably a secondary thing very often to the other pieces. With that in mind, talking about the evolution of this landscape, and obviously Birch doing some very pioneering work in this particular space, but outside of Birch, what are you most excited about in the world of data and AI moving forward?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I really do think that it's an incredible time to be in biotech, more broadly than just the applications that Birch is working on. It seems like, every week there's two or three publications that come out using, LLMs for, protein engineering, for different genetic applications that really are just mind blowing. And the way that the field is now able to capture lots of different data and sort of shoehorn that into models for different applications is just really exciting. I think some things that I'm really interested in as we continue on here is, what are the different capabilities when it comes to machine learning models and AI models in biology that are going to emerge as the scale of these models continues to get larger. And so, there's commonly this trend with scaling laws, right? Larger models are going to be more accurate. They're going to have more capabilities. But there's this interesting aspect of biology, right? If you think about the central dogma of biology, you have, DNA makes RNA, makes protein, and that's sort of this whole sort of infrastructure of information transfer within living systems. There's starting to emerge these trends of some of these very large models basically learning all about DNA sequences and different aspects of genomes, and that actually transferring to models learning certain aspects about proteins and mRNA and all the different interconnectedness of biology. So, as we continue to gather more data, as scientists and data scientists in the field continue to work to create more data, we can apply some of these models, and I think we're going to learn some incredible things about the interconnectedness of how all of this fits together. And this concept of transfer learning, I think, is very exciting avenue for further research in biology in general. And then, I would also say just the applications of these models that we're developing to help predict different aspects of biological systems. Drug discovery is a really important and interesting application that has made some significant strides in the last few years. Biomanufacturing is another where I think some machine learning and AI application has a big opportunity for some very large impact. Thinking of basically engineered foods, thinking of commodity chemical production, and some of these complex chemistries that are difficult to run in an industrial chemical scale, but biology is really well suited for generating these different kind of chemicals. So I'm just very excited about the application of these new technologies. And folks in the more applied AI field, it's the same thing with the applications in biology. Every week there's a new model architecture. Every week there's a new way of kind of processing some of the data and creating more sophisticated models. And the two of those things kind of marching forward is, like I said, just a very exciting proposition. And I think that there's some really exciting things to come in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. It just feels like on such a logical level to me when I have conversations with clients around their use case of how they're using sort of AI and high performance computing to solve problems. It just feels like such a logical example of how those two things overlap, biology and high performance computing. If you think about, DNA at its core, it's a pattern of code, right? And being able to apply high performance computing and computation to that is just, a really such an exciting space, isn't it? And you can see how all these advances are happening, and it's so great that, like you say, it is almost weekly you're seeing something new that coming out. Wow, it just blows your mind. So very exciting stuff. Okay, perfect. Well, I'd like to draw to a close by asking a couple of questions in terms of, you kind of hinted to a little bit earlier on about Birch, I guess, in that next stage, but what's next for you guys? What's the plan? Where do you sort of go from here?
Yeah, so maybe a couple of ways to answer that question. I think we're really focused right now in the next year or so to expand the operations and the company. So we're expanding into a new space here in Portland, probably by the end of the summer and the early fall, and that's going to be a big step for us. So we're going to expand the laboratory space and expand our capability of scaling up our basically recycling processes. And with that expansion into the new space, what we hope to do in the next 12 to 16 months or 18 months is to basically build out a pilot or demonstration scale plant where we're able to actually process meaningful amounts of plastic through the process. So that's sort of our first beachhead where we'll say, okay, we've demonstrated this large industrial process, and we'll look to make partnerships with folks who are generating plastic waste, and look to figure out ways to best integrate with ways of actually recycling that waste plastic. I think the other way I would answer that question is, we're really focused, and I haven't gotten too many into the details in this conversation, but right now our main focus is PET plastic. So polyester, thinking of, a plastic water bottle, or containers that you would carry your berries or tomatoes in that you buy at the grocery store. That's PET. So that's really what our major focus has been. But we have been developing, as part of the enzyme engineering and protein engineering platform that involves the data science aspect of what we're doing, what I would consider a polymer agnostic platform. And so we've developed some innovative technology that's really more on the biology side than the data side, but really allows us to capture a lot of data. So using some droplet microfluidics, interesting and new chemistries that allow us to encapsulate microparticles or small nanoparticles of plastic into droplets, and allowing us to measure actually millions of different versions of different enzymes breaking down different polymers. And so as we build out that infrastructure to attack other polymers, we see different verticals for the company to move into, where we'll tackle PET, we'll tackle polyurethane, we'll tackle polylactic acid in time as we move forward, because we've set the foundation for this polymer agnostic protein engineering platform. So really, there's sort of the scale up, the demonstration of the business model in the next 12 to 18 months, and then there's the sort of slightly lagging behind foundation building for the other polymers and the other business opportunities that we can move into.
Wow. Certainly sounds like you've got quite a bit there to keep you busy, to sink your teeth into, which is great to hear. But it is genuinely fascinating. It's always really great to do an episode where, like I say, there's such a real world application of how technology is used. And like I say, I guess we're still really in relative infancy in this sort of space, but I can see it being a very exciting way forward. So I certainly will keep a very close eye on your progress, and wish you all the best for things to come. But I guess not much more remains, Miles, and say thank you very much for coming on. Really enjoyed the conversation today, and hearing more about some of the great work you guys are doing there at Birch. But before I let you go, I like to end every episode of the podcast with the same question, if you would care to indulge me, which is, what would you say is your one favorite piece of advice that you've ever received throughout your career or your life to date? What would that be?
Yeah, I think one piece of advice that I received that I commonly think to, and it's sort of a foundational thing for me, is, I heard this from one of my old coworkers, and I think when you're making a decision, or when you're trying to come up with a strategy, it can be difficult, but if you try and ground yourself and ground yourself in the idea that what you're trying to do is make the right decision. So doing the right thing is not always easy, but if you can basically take solace in the fact that, okay, I'm making this decision, or we're making this decision as an organization, it might be challenging, but it is going to be the right thing. That allows you to really look at things in an objective manner, and look at things in the long term, because some decisions you make, it's easy, and of course this is the right decision to make, and yeah, that's great. But sometimes, there are more challenging decisions when it comes to business and technology and research and development, and making the right decision can be difficult. But, really trying to ground yourself in that, and it's not always easy, and, don't always get it right, but trying to do that as consistently as possible, I think is something that I really aspire to, and a piece of advice that I really keep kind of in the back of my head at all times.
Nice, yeah, good one. Nice way to end there, and certainly something I think transcends, that one particular domain. And yeah, you can certainly apply that to many use cases. So fantastic. Well, look, thanks again for coming on and being such a great guest. And yeah, please do come back on again in future and have another chat with us when you guys are a little bit further down the line. I very much look forward to hearing about the latest breakthroughs that you guys have made, and wish you all the very best for the times to come.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was a pleasure and a really fun conversation.
Take care. Bye for now.